It's always a treat. Welcome, all souls. I'm Assistant Minister Randy Lewis, and I'm so excited to be with you today. Now, this Sunday, we're kicking off our summer theme, starting with Pride, and in conjunction with Pride Month. Now, Marlon's going to be today, and yours truly is going to be next week now. And I'll be delivering a LGBTQ plus Pride sermon, so you won't want to miss that. Now, if you are a first-time guest with us, we have a gift bag for you in the foyer. Now, may I see the hands of those who've joining us here for the first time? Hey, right. I see you. Right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please fill out a Connect card found in the pew back in front of you so that we can stay in contact with you. And welcome to those who've joined us online. If you're on Facebook or Zoom, please drop your prayer requests, your joys and concerns into the chat so that in a moment we can light a candle for you and hold space for you here in the sanctuary. Now, as Reverend Gerald comes with our invocation and covenant, please stand as you are able and remain standing as we greet one another in courageous love.
I'm listening to you. There are great conversations going on. People are saying to one another, how you doing? And now it's my turn. Good morning, church. Good morning. This is indeed a day that God has made. Let us then rejoice in it and be glad. And let us count our many blessings. We are grateful for the capacity to see, hear, feel, and understand. We are grateful for the incredible gift of life, and we are especially grateful for the ties of love, which bind us together, giving dignity, meaning, worth, and joy to all our days. Please join me in our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. I love this church, and I love you.
We love you.
So welcome to All Souls, where we love beyond belief.
Please be seated, and except for the Sickles family, who I'd like to invite forward to light our chalice this morning, a family that's joined our church in the last year, and we're so glad to have you all with us, and thank you for lighting our chalice. We light our chalice thinking of the ways in which people have lit the spark within us, the passion of ours to live through whatever circumstances we might find. So as we kindle this flame, may our hearts be reminded of those who've kindled the flame within us.
Good morning, church. The story I have for you today is an ancient one, told throughout the East. Art Days is the author of this particular telling of the cracked pot, set long ago in India. A water bearer had 2 large pots, each hung on the end of a pole that he carried across his neck. And one pot was perfectly made, and it never leaked. The other pot had a crack in it. And by the time the water bearer reached his house, it had leaked much of its water and was only half full. And for a full 2 years, this went on daily, the bearer delivering only 1.5 pots full of water to his house. Of course, the perfect pot was quite proud of its accomplishments, but the poor cracked pot was ashamed of its imperfections and miserable that it was able to accomplish only half of what it had been made to do. After 2 years of what it perceived to be a bitter failure, the cracked pot spoke to the water bearer one day by the stream. "I am ashamed of myself, and I want to apologize to you." "Why?" asked the bearer. "What are you ashamed of?" "I have been able, for the past 2 years, to deliver only half of my load because of this crack in my side, which causes water to leak out all the way back to our house. Because of my flaws, you have to do all of this work, and you don't even get full value from your efforts." The water bearer felt sorry for this old cracked pot, and in his compassion, he said, "As you return to the house, I want you to notice the beautiful flowers along the path." And indeed, as they went up the hill, the old cracked pot took notice of the sun warming the beautiful wildflowers on the side of the path, and this cheered him some. But at the end of the trail, the pot still felt sad because it had leaked out half its load, and so again, the pot apologized to the bearer for its failure. The bearer said to the pot, "Did you notice that there were only flowers on your side of the path, but not on the other pot's side? That's because I've always known about your flaw, and I took advantage of it. I planted flower seeds on your side of the path, and every day while we walked back from the stream, you've watered them. For 2 years, I've been able to pick these beautiful flowers to decorate my table. Without you being just the way you are, we would not have this beauty to grace our home." Each and every one of us has our own unique flaws. We are all broken in some way. We are all cracked pots. But it's the cracks and flaws that we each have that makes our lives together so very interesting and rewarding. It's what allows us to help each other. So children, let us go and discover how our imperfections might complement each other.
Today, we honor the mystery and complexity of life. We acknowledge that life is never static and that change is the only thing that we are presented with. But we feel thankful that we do not have to traverse this path of life alone. We're grateful for being a part of this community to share our lives' transitions, both joyful and painful. Today we light a candle for Maureen Diane Dessauer on the death of Phil Dessauer, who died May 31st. And we light a candle for the family of Reverend Yelbanzi Charles Johnson, the founder of Church of the Restoration, who was ordained here in this congregation. A memorial for Yelbanzi will be held here this Saturday, June 10th at 2 p.m. We light a candle for Stephanie Seymour and family on the death of Tom Seymour, who died this past week, who was also past board president. We light a candle for the family of Harriet Jensen, whose memorial will be held here this Tuesday, June 6th at 4 p.m. And from our online viewers and everywhere members, Larry Cochran said, please pray for my wife, Deb, who is currently in the hospital. Tomorrow will be her birthday. Giacomo Tosaro says, please pray for the LGBTQ people in Uganda, Central Africa, who risk imprisonment and torture for just being who they are. Kathy Pearsall requesting prayers for my coworker recovering from surgery. And John Henry Horatio to say a prayer for me. And invite you now to name aloud someone you wish to be included in this sacred moment. I light a final candle for all the precious names spoken and those unspoken, but yet remain in our hearts. If you've lost a loved one in this past year, or if this Sunday is the closest to the anniversary of that loved one's death, we invite you now to stand in memory for a moment of silence before the prayer.
You may be seated. Hear now this prayer. O gracious God, Spirit of life and love, we are gathered in this place to seek, to sustain, and to share. Our lives are not always the way we want it to be. We are given so many opportunities, but we don't really know exactly where and how and who and what and all those questions that plow into us so that we can make decisions. We are human beings, and we sometimes fall down. But we come to a place like this because we know we can be seen for who we are. As people who are striving, who are complex, of course, but who are striving to love ourselves and each other. We need this kind of love in a place called the United States of America where children are murdered just being in a school. This place called the United States of America where we just can't find the way to stop gun violence. But we know that despite the complexities around us, we are filled with your spirit of life and love. And we can do something. We are not helpless. We are not hopeless. We are people of love. And we lift our voices together and say we are who we are. And we take pride in who we are. And we put our arms around those folks who are put on the sidelines. We're all cracked vessels, that's right. And because we all have our inadequacies, we seek one another so that we can find the strength to move on. We're in this church because this church has a covenant that says love will keep us strong. And on this day, in this place, this prayer is about keeping us together. Gracious God, Spirit of life and love, we pray this prayer in your holy name because we know all things are possible through you. And so we say, Amen. Blessed be. Ashe. May it be so.
What a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arm. Yes. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arm. I am leaning, safe and secure from all alarm, leaning on the everlasting arm, leaning. Everlasting arms. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. Sing it with us, would you? When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
need your help.
Sure.
And Tommy.
Yeah.
This is the kind of church we have where Tommy texts me last night and says, "Hey, I'm coming to church. You want me to play?" And what do you think I'm going to say? Because he is a light. David is a light. And Matt would be with us. He's ill, so we'll keep him in our thoughts and prayers. But we all have our light to shine. And so this little light of mine, can you?
I love this song.
Okay.
Sing it with us. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine. Let's take it up. Everywhere I go, oh, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, whoa, building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine. Play it, Tommy. Let me hear you clap your hands. Come on. This little light of mine, this little light of mine. Let me hear you clap your hands. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine. Oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Play it, Tommy. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Yeah! Woo! Yeah! All right. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm sure glad he called. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many choices, you know.
Tommy, thanks for letting your light shine with us, coming in and playing.
Wow.
Wow. We're having church this morning,
That's right.
And part of what that means is that
Yes.
we, sometimes our light gets a little dampened during the course of the week, or we wake up in the morning and we're not feeling it. But when we gather together and we sing together and we pray together and we stand together with our mourning and all the things that are going on in our lives, it just, all of a sudden, our light starts to brighten, and our hearts, which get a little closed, start to open. I felt a lot of hearts opening this morning, and it's a beautiful thing to experience, and I'm experiencing it too. It was interesting to hear did our religious educator call us all crackpots this morning? I thought I heard her say that, and I love how she was sharing the value of a cracked vessel, because that's how I feel a lot of the time, like a cracked vessel, and hopefully that's where the light shines in and out through some of those broken places and those experiences that we've had where we've been hurt and where we've lost something and just broke our hearts into little pieces. But thinking of the whole idea of the value of a cracked pot, I'm one of those people who, when I go to buy something, I look at all the Google reviews. I want to know how many stars other people have given it. I don't really want to get a cracked pot. I want to get one that works well, that does what I want it to do. And so I'm sort of that kind of person. I don't know about you if you look at reviews, but in the New York Times the other day, author Rachel Connolly, she describes a friend of hers named Dan, and she describes him this way. There's a kind of person who finds the idea of seeking out the best incredibly enticing on an almost spiritual level. It's the kind of person who genuinely enjoys pursuing articles like the 9 best hair dryers of 2023. The person who's overcome with clammy dread at the idea of drinking in a bar with only a 4-star rating on Google. Who, in order to plan a weekend getaway, requires a prolonged and extensive operation that involves several spreadsheets. You know the type. Maybe you even are the type. Dan is that kind of person. She goes on, he's also from California. I know we have some from California today. Perhaps not a coincidence that this is the home of both the eternal quest for self-optimization and the internet ecosystem that underpins the explosion in ratings culture. Dan works in tech, and he has a keen appreciation for the finer things in life. He's known throughout our friend group, she says, for his fastidious, curated lists of restaurants, bars, and even specific menu items. He's also known for his near refusal to venture into establishments that are anything less than excellent, and for his hours spent trawling reviews for everything from mini fridges to trail shoes. Now, when I questioned him on a rumor that I heard recently that he had been freezing packets of the best butter to bring back from France, he confirmed it was true. Now, Dan may be an excessive case, but a dampened version of his instinct permeates our culture. If it didn't, the raft of articles solemnly decrying this year's superlative vacuum cleaners simply would not exist. So what is it that drives Dan? And maybe more importantly, what drives you and me so often to want to have and to experience the best? According to Conley, her friend Dan is trying to guarantee something closer to happiness. His goal is to both experience the highest happiness possible and to share it with his friends and other people. Now, you can't fault a person for that. But Connolly adroitly asks, can happiness really be found in a packet of butter? Can the better toaster ever really be enough to make us happy? Dr. Barry Schwartz, who wrote the book, The Paradox of Choice, he's done the research. It turns out we have too many choices. And instead of this making us happier, it's making us less satisfied. No matter what we buy or what we order or which vacation package we choose, because we know we had other options, a lot of the time we end up disappointed, at least on some level disappointed, even when we have a perfectly fine car or meal or refrigerator or coffee grinder or hotel or whatever. Since we are aware that there are features that this choice does not include. We end up focusing on what we did not get, and we find ourselves less satisfied rather than more satisfied. Do you know who routinely has the biggest smiles on the medal stand at the Olympics? It's not, I'm not making this up. This actually has been studied. It's the gold and the bronze medalists. The gold, of course, because they achieved their lifelong goal. The bronze, because they're so glad that they had at least made it to the medal stand. They realized it could have been different. They were close to disappearing completely into the pack of those who came all this way after all this work and didn't win anything. So they're pretty happy. The silver medalist, on the other hand, despite achieving such an elite status, often feels regret because they think, I could have had gold. I was so close. Had I just trained a little harder, eaten a better breakfast, made a faster decision in that one moment. So the silver medalist's smile often has a deep tinge of blue. And if we're not careful, we can also go through our lives feeling like a silver medalist. We can have achieved or received so much of what we need and want, more perhaps than we ever imagined for ourselves, but we can have a hard time fully appreciating it. There are some slogans that people have come up with to try to address this, like, the secret to happiness is having low expectations. That's certainly one way to try to get there. I'm not advocating low expectations. But the one I came across that I like comes from my late colleague, Forrest Church, who said, want what you have, do what you can, and be who you are. That's a pretty good formula for a happy life. Want what you have, do what you can, and be who you are. Now, so far this morning, I've been talking about things like toasters, butter. But let's remember that we also have here at All Souls Everywhere members in Uganda and Rwanda. We lit a candle for some in Italy and Uganda and other places. And, you know, these folks don't have the same number of choices oftentimes as we do, those of us who are in North America or in Europe. In fact, Barry Schwartz says that we would all be happier if we shared some of our abundance of choices with people in our own countries and in developing countries. People in affluent nations and neighborhoods would be more satisfied if we shared some of what we have that is not making us happy anyway. He makes a powerful case for the redistribution of wealth. But I digress. Now, where this topic affects most of us, regardless of material wealth, is when we apply it to our relationships. Being disappointed in the dish that we ordered at a restaurant and looking covetously at that delicious filet on the plate across the table is one thing. But when it comes to comparing our spouse, our parents, our children with those of someone else, it's a whole other thing. When we compare our lips, our hips, our hair, our health with that of other people, it can lead to unhappiness on a completely different level. How do we learn to want what we have when we have cancer or depression or HIV? How do we love what we have when we see how so many other people seem to have it better? When Reverend Forrest Church coined the motto, "Want what you have, do what you can, be who you are," he was dying of esophageal cancer at the age of 60. How do you want what you have when you have a terminal diagnosis so young? Dr. Church's final gift to us was that he died with such grace. He showed us that we create a life not by what happens to us, but by how we react to what happens to us. So much of life we don't have a choice about, a lot of the important things. And I think that's part of the drive to find and choose the best of all the choices, because we don't get that many things that we can actually choose in our lives. And so this is something that we feel we can control. And so we want to get it right. But we should keep in mind what Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor, said. The one freedom that cannot be taken from us is the freedom to choose our attitude in any given situation. Now, he learned this by watching certain people who were suffering in the depths of a Nazi concentration camp who, despite it all, gave away their last piece of bread to help someone else. And he realized that whatever's happening to a person, we ultimately get to decide how we want to show up. We can show up with anger and disappointment and resentment and despair. We can show up with envy and meanness and judgment, or just run away and not show up. Or we can choose love and gratitude and generosity and courage, curiosity. Now, as for me, I put on the lock screen of my phone. Stop being selective with life, cherry-picking experiences you want, and saying no thanks to the ones you don't. I'm trying to learn to accept whatever happens to be happening to me in any given day. It is what it is. That's where we start. And I need to find ways to let whatever it is be what it is and not try to run, to deny, or to decry it. My ultimate goal in life is to learn how to love and to receive love. That's the big thing. When I wake up in the morning, I'm really trying to do. All this other stuff I do is just hopefully in service of that larger goal. And so I try to use every experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, to help teach me how whatever I'm going through, how can it help me to learn how to love and be loved? When I get a flat tire and I'm on my way to an important activity that I've been waiting a long time to get to, instead of just stewing in anger, I'm not saying I don't get angry, I'm saying instead of only stewing in anger and just feeling bad about my situation, I remind myself, well, my overall goal for the day is to learn to love. So even though I'm missing out on this other secondary plan that I had for the day, how can I still let what's happening help me reach my higher purpose of becoming more loved and loving? Now, many people use the language that their main goal in life each day is to do God's will or to connect to their highest self. What's your highest goal? That if you get nothing else out of a particular day, what is the one thing that if you got that or did that would make your day feel like a success? All other plans gone awry. Is it to have loved and be loved? Is it to connect with the divine? Is it to be all that you can be and live your highest purpose? You know, we may have 178 types of salad dressing to choose from when we go to the supermarket. And that can be overwhelming. But when it comes to our highest goal, I don't think there are that many choices. Love, connecting with the holy, happiness, fulfilling your potential, being of service to others. There's probably only a handful or so of things that we have to choose from. Get clear on what it is that you want to move closer to each day in order to feel that your life has succeeded. Then no matter what happens, your job is to figure out how in that moment you can come closer to your highest goal. Then if you miss your flight, it doesn't have to ruin your day if you let it help you achieve your destiny. When you lose something precious, instead of just feeling cheated, you can find ways to allow the loss to move you towards your highest purpose. Because we can't control what happens to us much of the time, but we can control how we show up no matter what's happening. Life is not about finding the best of everything. It's about making the most of everything you have. As Conley says, life is not a treasure hunt. It's about treasure creating. It's not about finding the perfect things. It's about creating perfect moments. Life really is what happens to us when we're making other plans. And so, plan on surprises, disappointments, and the unexpected. And whatever comes, welcome it in. I'll end with this poem from the 13th century poet, Sufi poet, Rumi, who writes, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness that comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond." There are a lot of choices these days, but the one we all have and the one that cannot be taken away from us is the freedom to choose our own attitude in any given situation. May you be blessed and be a blessing. Amen.
Our closing hymn this morning is one of my favorites. And before I give you the number, I do want you to know that I did check and it does have a 5-star rating. Okay, it's number 318 in your hymn book. So please find that hymn book. There you go. Number 318, We Would Be One. We'll all play it together once, and then please join us in singing together.
Yes, please rise.
Please join us. We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one as now joined tomorrow, a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service with love and justice strive to make us free.
Please be seated. I have a couple of things I want to make sure you know that are coming up, and then we're going to have an offering and hear some music and make our way into this beautiful morning. If you've been thinking about becoming a member of All Souls, today at 1 o'clock, we're going to be having a joining class. You can do that on Zoom, or you can come in person in room 206 upstairs. We'd love to greet you and welcome you into membership. Or if you just want to find out more about what it's like, you're not maybe ready to join but want to know what that means, please come to 206 or join us on Zoom. The men and women of the church are putting on a summer cookout that's Saturday, June 17th, so in a couple of weeks. They're also going to paint the Black Lives Matter mural back into the parking lot after lunch. So come on out dressed to paint if you, it's an intergenerational activity. Also, really important, on June 23rd, you probably haven't heard about this, it's a Friday night, 6 to 8, we are going to be having a celebration for Reverend Barbara Prose, who after 13 amazing years with us is moving to Portland, Oregon to take a job as the executive director of a nonprofit that works for immigrant justice. And so she's doing great things, but we want to really recognize her, celebrate her. We're going to have some speakers to talk about her. We're going to have some music, and then we're going to have a wonderful reception with heavy hors d'oeuvres and everything. And so we hope you can come out and celebrate her ministry with us on Friday night, the 23rd of June. And then on the 25th, that Sunday morning, we're just going to have one service. Barbara's going to deliver her final sermon to us as our called minister here, and then we'll have a very special reception put on by the Day Alliance in Emerson Hall so we can celebrate her as well. But Friday night's a chance for us to talk to her and about her. Sunday's a day for her to, one more time, say goodbye, tell us she loves us, and teach us something about living a good life. So with that, our offering today is going to Tulsa Cares, really important organization in our community that does so much to help people with HIV and hepatitis C in Oklahoma. They are committed to social justice and social services to the most marginalized and at risk populations in our community. They've been doing this work for a long time, so please give generously. If you do want to make your pledge payment to the church or make a gift to the church, you can do that as well. Just make sure you note that it is for All Souls in the memo or put it in the envelope. But for now, whether you're online, you can do that by clicking a button, but let us now receive this morning's offering.
Yes. Thank you. I can't believe.
You know it's a good day in church when you don't want it to be over.
Right.
I just want to tell you that I think you're great. And, they say you shouldn't just give general compliments. You should be specific. So let me tell you why I think you're great. Because this morning, you helped my heart to open, and I felt like your heart may have opened a little bit too. And our hearts, when your heart opens with other people all together like this, those are special people in your life. And so thank you for being you. May you go out in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, and return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all life. Most of all, go and be blessed and be a blessing. Amen.